The checkpoint property in the hills of northeast India is a structure defined entirely by its unseen history. It sits on a piece of ground that has been waiting a long time to settle a debt. During a forgotten epidemic in the early 1900s, hundreds of victims were buried in the eastern slope without the proper funerary rites. The ground received the dead without being asked, and the words that were supposed to be said were never spoken. This lack of closure created a metaphysical vacuum, an unfinished ground. Looking at this spatial visualization of the slope, we can see the result, a glowing negative void that exerts a continuous magnetic upward pull on the world above it. When land is denied its proper history, it becomes patient. It will eventually find a way to collect what it is owed from whatever is built on top of it. In 1945, Catherine Hargrove arrived at the farmhouse alone. Her husband, a doctor, had died protecting the local village, a sacrifice Catherine believed was her fault because she had revealed his location to the authorities. She planted an apple orchard on the eastern slope and began a daily ritual. Every morning, she stood at the edge of the trees and confessed her crushing guilt, turning her private shame into the only rights the ground had ever received. The orchard immediately responded to the feeding. The trees absorbed the weight of her unspoken words, accelerating into massive, unnatural growth that the local soil and altitude couldn't explain. Catherine fled the property in 1964, but she left her confession behind, sealed in a diary behind the kitchen wall. She wrote, "I fed it myself, my secrets, my shame." She left the orchard behind, large and still hungry. Unexpressed trauma physically roots itself into the environment. It doesn't vanish. It simply grows larger while it waits for the next person to arrive. At 11:51 p.m. on April 3, 1995, Catherine's granddaughter Eleanor stands in that orchard. She is carrying 5 years of silence regarding her own sister's death, and she has come to say the name she's been hiding. Eleanor speaks the truth of her sister's death into a recorder, naming every failure and every hidden regret. By making her shame a matter of record rather than a private secret, she provides the orchard with the confession it wants, but starves it of the privacy it needs to grow. As the orchard's hunger breaks, the ancient roots let go, releasing their physical anchor on the unfinished ground of the epidemic dead. With that anchor dissolved, the energy releases all at once, radiating instantly from the hills down toward the Durgapur highway. The target of this release is a car carrying Shekhar Radhakrishna. He was returning from Delhi after closing an international partnership that would have connected his company to the global markets of Singapore. At 11:52 p.m., the exact moment the ground in the northeast lets go, a force throws Shekhar's car off the road. He enters a coma that will last for 30 years. One woman's moment of release on a hillside directly triggered another family's decades of paralysis. 2 unrelated bloodlines are now violently linked by the same minute in time. While the hills remained still, the city around Shekhar's family moved into the tech boom of the late 90s. His wife Sita began a ritual of her own. She attended 73 consecutive company meetings, taking meticulous notes in her own handwriting to represent her husband's vote in a world he could no longer see. His brother Kiran managed the medical reality. He executed exactly 360 monthly hospital visits over 30 years, never missing a second Thursday. Kiran also began a secret 6-year project to track down and legally acquire the checkpoint property, the place where the accident began. The Hargroves buried their grief in the soil, but the Radhakrishnas managed their trauma through the visible arithmetic of devotion. In February 2025, the wait ends. Shekhar's brain activity suddenly spikes across the monitors, and he opens his eyes to a world 30 years older than the one he left. When Kiran shows him a photograph of the stone farmhouse at Checkpoint, Shekhar recognizes it instantly. He identifies the property as home before he even knows its name. By 2026, the children of the original founders arrive at the site. They represent a new generation of visionary engineers and architects, fully ready to finish what was started 80 years ago. They make a deliberate structural choice. They grind down the dead trees above, but they build the new foundation interlocking directly with the ancient roots, acknowledging the history of the ground rather than trying to erase it. The final structure is an advanced AR museum, projecting the site's documented history into the air. By turning the property's data into visible light, the project provides the acknowledgement the ground was denied during the epidemic, finally filling the metaphysical vacuum with a known, shared history. We cannot erase the tragedies buried beneath us, but by confronting them with truth and devotion, we can build a future directly on top of our ghosts.